watched Amityville Vampire. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name's Chris, and today I watched Amityville Vampire. I don't know why I watched Amityville Vampire, but I did, and it's directed by Tim Vigil. So Amityville Vampire, I guess, is considered a movie, kind of an anthology horror movie. Wasn't expecting the anthology part. Actually, I don't even know what I was expecting. It's called Amityville Vampire, and if you've been down the Amityville street or journeyed to the town of Amityville, you know that these low-budget movies generally have absolutely nothing to do with Amityville. So I will say I was surprised when the movie opened and they have at least a screenshot of a house that looks like what you would know the Amityville house looks like, with that window in the attic and kind of like a Dutch colonial type thing. So that's pretty much all the Amityville you get, because the rest of the movie has nothing to do with that. But honestly, that's a lot more than you get from most Amityville movies, so I'll give it that. So the first story in this anthology opens with this cleaning crew, I guess, cleaning the Amityville house. It's unclear because it looks like a new house, but I digress. And the first thing I will note about this movie is they gotta stop letting like people's freaking nephews or something compose the Casio soundtracks to this stuff, because it is awful. And beyond just like amateur synthesizer music, there's just tons of stock music and stuff that's never, and I'm okay with stock music as long as it fits, but just because the track says like epic thriller moment or whatever, you got to know when to use your epic thriller moment, and they just don't. Nobody, this is just, okay, I'm already off because it's just Amityville. Okay, there's an extreme lack of competence in this movie. I'll say it. And I would understand if it's like, you know, 2 people crew and you're like just running a gun, you got like 2 days to shoot this shit. Maybe that's what it is. But when you look at the credits, they paid for a sound guy. They paid for a gaffer. Somebody did the lighting. Somebody did the sound on this movie. And it's awful. I don't understand what you're paying for. I would ask for my money back. Incredibly inconsistent audio, which is right away going to turn off 95% of the people watching. They're going to be like, nope, I'm out, because no matter what the movie looks like, if it sounds like garbage, nobody wants to watch. In between the same dialogue sequences, the audio switches and sounds awful. Sometimes you're supposed to be back in the 1500s or whatever, and there's air conditioning noises. It's just really bad audio. And if you're making one of these low-budget movies, just cut all the audio except the dialogue, fade it out, fade that dialogue out when it ends, and Foley in every other sound effect. You can just get nice clean dialogue. That's the only thing that matters. Get that good clean dialogue. You can do everything else in post. Okay? We just do that. Just do that. I understand it'll take a long time to do the sound in post, but it won't be awful, or it shouldn't be awful, as long as you can get good dialogue.
You always brought sunshine to my soul.
And you to my dreaming. Is that chastity? Who is this woman?
I watched this movie on Vudu for free, but it had commercial breaks. And you know you're watching a bad movie when you feel like a reprieve because a commercial break comes on. And you're like, oh, thank God. Halfway decent production values. I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just, yeah, maybe I'm just being a dick. But there's just nothing here. Okay. I'll find some positive in this whole thing. The very end, there's like a cool, fun kill sequence, sort of. Decent gore, I'll say. For like, I don't know, 8 seconds. You get like 8 seconds that are good in this movie. 8 seconds. I mean, we have like stories in this movie where This whole story takes place essentially in the threshold of a door with two characters talking to each other for about 20 minutes, back and forth. And I don't understand how acting can be this bad. I'm without words. I guess maybe unless the actors have just never been in front of a camera before and they have some sort of, nervousness so they can't actually even act. Maybe that's what it is, but it's just like a level here where, I don't know, if we could improv a scene right now and the acting would be 90 times better. It would still be awful, but it would be way better. I just don't understand what's going on here, whether it's like we learned the script and it's now in the actor's defense, this sequence I was talking about where it's like 20 minutes in front of a threshold of a door, there's a lot of fucking dialogue there, so maybe they just remembered all the lines, or maybe they're reading them. That could be. I don't know. It's just awful. It's awful. I talked about them hiring like a full-time guy who does lighting. Sometimes the lighting is okay, I guess. At least you can see things most of the time. But there's sequences where, like, I don't know, it's daytime and then the camera moves and it's nighttime and it's just incredibly sloppy. Like, I don't know how you wouldn't notice that. Or I guess you do and you just don't care. I mean, I think that's probably what happened, because I don't know how many times it's happened where a person starts a line and flubs it and they just keep going. And they're like, yeah, it's a good take. Put that in the movie.
Perhaps it is a sign. Perhaps it is God who sent you to me. Come in.
And, okay, so let's separate the production values out of this thing and be super generous and say, well, sure, they weren't able to, execute on their vision properly, but maybe their vision was interesting. Think the vision was interesting? We have a story about cleaning people who go into a house, the Amityville house, which now all of a sudden a woman takes an empty bucket and is scrubbing a wall and blood drips on her face, so she licks it, and now she's a vampire. And that's the story. Then we have a story about, I don't know, a 60-year-old woman who has big boobs and wants to show this guy her boobs. That's a story. We have a story about a lady working late, getting ready to go on Thanksgiving break at her job when the CEO comes in and has a fantasy about making out with her and then ties her up and kills her because she's a vampire. The CEO is, but not the lady. And that's a story. And what's even worse about some of this is, like, this is being told by these two characters driving. And for some of the stories, they try to relay, like, real important themes or real themes. Like, there's the one story about living in the moment. He talks about, like, coping isn't living. You have to live in the moment. I'm like, shut the fuck up, all right? This movie, we can't talk, there's not, The one is like, the one story, it takes place in like the 1500s or 1300s or some shit. The wife is dying, I guess of like bad script disease or some shit. And he just invites a vampire in because after 20 minutes, she convinces him. And I was like, yeah, I'm convinced. Just get this over with. And she turns out to be a vampire. We got a full-on peeing sequence from start to finish. We hear every piece of liquid drip out of his body onto the ground. So in the end, you have an incredibly poorly produced Amityville movie that's actually about vampires being told by a couple going on vacation, and the only stories this guy relays to his fiancée or girlfriend, I guess, is stories about vampires, which would get really old. I'd be like, dude, don't you have any other kind of stories to tell? And so the only through line here is the vampire idea, but beyond that, the stories are all detached from each other. And completely detached from Amityville. It's an Amityville movie. Guess I'm not surprised, honestly. This is what you get. This is what you get. Oh well. I guess I'll see you here next time when we talk about another Amityville movie. Amityville Mount Misery Road. Hey guys, it's Chris. I know some of you already have a heads up over the others because you've already liked the video and subscribed to the channel. To me, it's like a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you do that? So like the video, subscribe to the channel, helps us out. Catch you here later, guys. Goodbye.